Hey, good morning, friends. Let's get back into American Miscellany. So this book was published in 1865. As you can see, we've made our way through, probably at least a quarter of it, maybe even a third. And we're here on page 291 with essay number 120, Natural Theology. We've just finished essay number 119, entitled The Headstone, which was more of a morality tale. Very nice. But let's move on to something slightly more scientific. Let's learn about natural theology. Essay number 120. Natural theology tells of the creation of all things, of the mighty power that fashioned and that sustains the universe, of the exquisite skill that contrived the wings and beak and feet of insects invisible to the naked eye, and that lighted the lamp of day, and launched into space comets 1,000 times larger than the earth, whirling 1,000,000 times swifter than a cannonball, and burning with a heat which 1,000 centuries could not quench. It exceeds the bounds of material existence and raises us from the creation to the author of nature. Its office is not only to mark what things are, but for what purpose they were made by the infinite wisdom of an all-powerful being, with whose existence and attributes its high prerogative is to bring us acquainted. Persons of such lives as should make it extremely desirable to them that there was no God and no future state might very well, as philosophers, derive gratification from contemplating the truths of natural theology, and from following the chain of evidence by which these are established, and might in such sublime meditation find some solace to the pain which reflection upon the past and fears of the future are calculated to inflict upon them. But it is equally certain that the science derives an interest incomparably greater from the consideration that we ourselves, who cultivate it, are most of all concerned in its truth, that our own highest destinies are involved in the results of the investigation. This, indeed, makes it beyond all doubt the most interesting of all sciences, and sheds on the other branches of philosophy an interest beyond that which otherwise belongs to them, rendering them more attractive in proportion as they connect themselves with this grand branch of human knowledge, and are capable of being made subservient to its uses. See only in what contemplations the wisest of men end their most sublime inquiries. Mark where it is that a Newton finally reposes, after piercing the thickest veil that envelops nature, grasping and arresting in their course the most subtle of her elements, and the swiftest, traversing the regions of boundless space, exploring worlds beyond the solar way, giving out the law which binds the universe in eternal order. He rests, as by an inevitable necessity, upon the contemplation of the great first cause, and holds it his highest glory to have made the evidence of his existence, and the dispensations of his power, and of his wisdom, better understood by man. If such are the peculiar pleasures which appertain to this science, it seems to follow that those philosophers are mistaken who would restrict us to a very few demonstrations, to 1 or 2 instances of design, as sufficient proofs of the deity's power and skill in the creation of the world. That one sufficient proof of this kind is in a certain sense enough, cannot be denied, as a single such proof overthrows the dogmas of the atheist and dispels the doubts of the skeptic. But it is But is it enough to the gratification of the contemplative mind? The great multiplication of proofs undeniably strengthen our positions, nor can we ever affirm respecting the theorems in a science not of necessary but of contingent truth, that the evidence is sufficiently cogent without variety and repetition. But independently altogether of this consideration, the gratification is renewed by each template. Each is different from the other. Each step renews our delight. The finding that at every step we make in one science and with one object in view, a new proof is added to those before possessed by another science, affords a perpetual source of a new interest and fresh enjoyment. This would be true if the science in question were one of an ordinary description. But when we consider what its nature is, how intimately connected with our highest concerns, how immediately and necessarily leading to the adoration of the Supreme Being, can we doubt that the perpetually renewed proofs of his power, wisdom, and goodness tend to fix and to transport the mind, by the constant nourishment thus afforded to feelings of pure and rational devotion? It is in truth an exercise at once intellectual and moral, in which the highest faculties of the understanding and the warmest feelings of the heart alike partake, and in which, not only without ceasing to be a philosopher, the student feels as a man, but in which the more warmly his human feelings are excited, the more philosophically he handles the subject. What delight can be more elevating, more truly worthy of a rational creature's enjoyment, than to feel, wherever we tread the paths of scientific inquiry, new evidence springing up around our footsteps, new traces of divine intelligence and power meeting our eye? We are never alone, at least, like the old Roman, we are never less alone than in our solitude. We walk with the deity, we commune with the great first cause, who sustains at every instant what the word of his power made. The delight is renewed at each step of our progress, though as far as evidence is concerned, we have long ago had proof enough. But that is no more a reason for ceasing to contemplate the subject, in its perpetually renovated and varied forms, then it would be a reason for resting satisfied with once seeing a long-lost friend, that his existence had been sufficiently proved by one interview. Thus, instead of restricting ourselves to the proofs alone required to refute atheism or remove skepticism, we should covet the indefinite multiplication of evidences of design and skill in the universe as subservient in a threefold way to purposes of use and gratification. First, as strengthening the foundation whereupon the system reposes. Secondly, as conducive to the ordinary purposes of scientific gratification, each instance being a fresh renewal of that kind of enjoyment. And thirdly, as giving additional ground for devout, pleasing, and wholesome adoration of the great first cause, who made and who sustains all nature.